Oh, my name is Doricia Wilkinson. I am a PhD student at Clemson University, wrapping up my PhD in human-centered computing. Today, I'll be talking about an AI integrated, human-centered approach to online safety. But first, let's back up a bit. So as we know, there are billions of people worldwide being connected to social media, and many aspects of our lives have now transitioned into the online space. And unfortunately, that comes with some risks. So we're seeing more and more persons being exposed to risks related to their online privacy, to their security, being exposed to harassment related harms, and even some of those harms spilling into the physical world. Now, this could get very overwhelming as we see that there isn't one category of harm. Persons are exposed to harms from different companies, from individuals themselves, their financial information being at risk. And in the end, it just ends up being so incredibly overwhelming that we see changes to people's behavior, how they interact in different online communities. They end up choosing to self-censor, which is like adjust how they interact in online spaces, or completely withdraw. And this has some serious implications if we're seeing more of discourse and things of that sort being conducted online and people are withdrawing. But what does it mean to be safe in general? So safety, I think, is a very wide definition, which comprises of people's privacy, security, and well-being, considering that if something happens to you, you're not necessarily just thinking about one particular aspect in a silo. Everything is more holistic. So then we wanted to take a look at what this means in the Caribbean. So I, along with some very competent collaborators, we conducted a research study in the Caribbean among 15 different English-speaking Caribbean countries, collecting data from a total of 551 persons. And what did we find? We found that persons are experiencing safety threats at a pretty alarming rate. So of the persons who said that they experience privacy risks, we found that overall privacy risks were the highest report, the highest trend that we were seeing, closely followed by harassment related harms. Interestingly, we saw a pretty sizable amount of persons, they said that they actually experienced threats that started off online but spilled into the offline world, for instance, with discrimination or in-person stalking. And then, of course, security-related harms. Now, this is particularly interesting because if we look and dive deep down into this, we see the most prevalent type of risk-related incident was risk-related to ads. So the overwhelming majority of persons, 325 out of the 551 that we were recorded, we saw that most persons said that, yeah, I am experiencing way too many ads that are actually unwanted, and this is very concerning for me. But we also saw high instances of persons saying, yeah, like I've also experienced unsolicited, explicit content being sent to me. And this is something I'm definitely not comfortable with, as well as their login information being compromised. So then, as we could see, it's not necessarily like it is one type of harm people are being affected by. Overall, several different types of harms people are constantly being faced with. So then, like, how do we actually address it? Like, what did we find? Like, what were the actionable insights? From this, we found that one, we need to push towards more equitable design, because we saw that, yes, although persons are experiencing harm at a very pressing rate, persons were also very much interested in actually in implying protective behaviors. So then it's not necessarily a case where persons within the region are not interested in protective behaviors. They're interested in protective behaviors, yes, but the resources might not be there to actually help them to reach a fair outcome. So then rather than making sure that, yes, each platform provides privacy policy or some type of mechanism, shifting more towards making sure that persons who need additional resources, they actually get that so they could actually arrive at a fair outcome. Next, we also see that persons were also very much open to the idea of alternative paths that would bring them to justice. So rather than simply removing a user, considering different approaches such as persons apologizing. And lastly, of course, we see that there are definitely high instances of interactions that started in the online space, spilling off to the offline space. So then it's important to make sure that there are opportunities there for offline protection, such as legislation, making sure that persons know if they actually encounter harm, where they could go to receive assistance. So we've seen that there are many different automated approaches available in the wild that help to detect maybe like toxic comments, but these don't always work too well. And one of the biggest problem with these types of different approaches is that they exclude outsiders, they exclude diverse experiences, which is particularly important for persons here in the region. So then we look at integrating artificially intelligent and inclusive by design, safety mechanisms that are inclusive of different cultural differences, different values, social norms, and then also aggregating traditionally forgotten experiences. What are the things that we should be considering when making this move? One, of course, context. These type of solutions should know, this particular person is from the Caribbean, so then they would need a different type of resolution. They would need additional resources, because in looking at the different type of substantive laws that are available in the region, it's actually quite limited. So then solutions that are artificially intelligent and inclusive by design would actually be aware of this and know how to suggest the best course of actions. Next, expanding the scope. So rather than considering some of the traditional methods that we've found, suggesting methods such as I said, apologies, looking at more like community service, things that help to make people a little bit better so they learn from their experiences rather than completely removing them. Then they just create like another account and continue their behavior. And also acting as a bridge between technical and non-technical support. We also want to make sure that these types of solutions, they won't be built and then used for evil. So making sure that safeguards are implemented that would prevent any particular governing body or political group to use it unfairly. This will also give users autonomy to avoid dismissing any particular threats, and also to provide transparency, which is very important because When you're creating these type of solutions, you want to make sure that people know their rights and they know exactly how these systems work to shed light to their underlying mechanisms. So overall, when we look at it, we think that having this push towards artificially intelligent and inclusive by design, these type of solutions would help to, one, have a better understanding of misbehavior online globally, help to provide better policy guidelines regionally, and also provide a guideline for practitioners, developers, and researchers when developing and designing support tools. So overall, we hope to provide this shift to help people stay safer online, to provide more transparency, and to help people to understand what their rights are online, to help just a better online experience in general. I am available in Gather Room for questions, and thank you for your time.